Agentic AI is transforming the world of asset performance management through its enablement of allowing systems to analyze, adapt, and act without continuous human intervention. Unlike GenAI, which can take inputs and create outputs, Agentic AI is able to make decisions and take actions to keep a process going in real time. However, as we've heard today, it's not without its challenges. Organizations are navigating critical questions about what, when, where, and how to deploy Agentic AI to maximize its value. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to panel 4. We will be exploring how Agentic AI can be used in asset performance management. I'm joined today by 4 guest speakers, but before they do their introductions, I want to ask you 2 key questions to help understand where you are in your Agentic AI journey. So if you can take a few seconds just to answer this question. Okay. Only one option, yeah. And this is actually the second question, but we'll get to the first question in a moment. All right, okay. Usage policies, monitoring, and auditing. Okay, brilliant. So usage policies and monitoring and auditing, and we'll touch on that a little bit over the next 42 minutes. But let's introduce our wonderful speakers. So we'll start with Tarun and then work our way back. So name, organization, and your focus area, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tarun Dhal. I look after digital offerings in the oil and gas business for Siemens Energy. I'm based in Houston, and I'm really excited about this panel. I'm more excited about this conference. We've had a wonderful day. You run a very tight shift, Adam. So kudos to you and the team, but thanks again. This has been wonderful.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nikhil. I come from Dubai. I represent a company called Baker Hughes. We are an energy technology company. We offer technologies to make energy secure, affordable, and sustainable. We have technologies from drilling to production to liquefaction to some of the new energy technologies like geothermal. Across these technologies, we layer in digital and AI to make operations more productive and reliable. I lead enterprise sales and pre-sales for our digital portfolio globally. Very excited to be here and very, very productive day already. Adam's run a tight ship, as Tarun said. 41 minutes to go, lot to come from our side.
Yes, hello. My name is Bjarki Guðmundsson. I am a digital manager in Norske Shell. I'm responsible for digital transformation and approximately everything that comes around digital.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. A lovely venue and excellent audience here, a lot of experts. I'm Rao Vankamamdi. I head the European oil and gas business for Larsen & Toubro Technology Services. We primarily do CapEx realization through our EPCM services and OpEx excellence through our digital AI solutions. Thank you.
Thank you all, and I should introduce myself as well, right? So I'm Bonnet Tayali. I am a manager at Baringa Partners. You would have heard from some of my colleagues earlier today through the presentation or the demos in the hall, but collectively we specialize in helping energy clients with some of their complex challenges around transformation, operations, and technology. All right, let's get into the discussion. Agentic AI, it's something we've heard a lot about throughout the course of the conference so far. It's a prominent theme. But let's try and understand what the actual opportunity is and how is it transforming traditional asset performance management practices, and how does it differ from GenAI itself? So I'll hand over to Nikhil and Raul to help us answer that.
Thank you, Bonnie. And as you said, we've been talking about Agentic AI since morning, and we're now talking about Agentic AI and APM. Before I talk about the opportunity, let me just put these 2 phrases into context. APM is almost as old as I am, and I have a mix of white and black on my head and a middle-aged man. And Agentic AI is exciting. It's younger than my 2-year-old daughter. When I walk on the street, nobody bothers. When she's walking, everybody's turning around and see, hey, how cute she is. So we're talking about combination of me and my daughter. And when my wife leaves us alone at home, it's a nightmare for her. But I hope Agentic AI and APM offers a lot more to the industry. But on a serious note, I'm very excited about the opportunity it offers. And the opportunity it has is taking the operation excellence to a new level. And why is because APM was grown in a word over the last few decades where we started bringing in whatever software technologies were available to optimize different aspects of our operations. We created tools for inspection, we created tools for integrity, we created tools for monitoring, we created tools for maintenance optimization, other workflows, and we started kind of bundling all of them into the phrase called asset performance management, and that was APM. The way these tools were conceived, they were all interdependent, and it needed a lot of human intervention, some human working on one tool, taking the data, taking the input, putting it into the other tool, and then so on and so forth. What happened as a result is, as you walk into any plant today, an operator comes in the morning and he sees an alarm or an alert, and he says, hey, this gas turbine or this pump has an alarm. What does he do? He says, okay, there's an alarm. Let me look at the vibration data. Let me look at the process data. Tries to diagnose. Beyond that, he goes to an SME. Hey, this is what is happening. I don't know what it is. Can you help me what it is? The SME would diagnose, then they would go look at the historical data, identify something, go look at the maintenance pattern, look at the inventory, look at the SAP, all of that. Before the problem is solved, it's sometimes a week, sometimes 15 days, and sometimes you actually have a trip at the plant, and we're looking at downtime. Imagine a world where the operator walks in and the tool tells him, hey, this turbine or this pump had an issue. I've already run the diagnosis. I've published what the potential root cause could be. I've checked your inventory. This is the potential root cause. The same issue happened in January 2021 and March 2024. Would you want me to just shoot and take this action? That's the opportunity. That's the productivity. What that unlocks is really the power of Agentic AI and APM coming together, where we use the tools that we've built over decades and empower them with the technologies which are available today. From an opportunity standpoint, some numbers say that for every million barrel that we produce, you could almost save $100 million a year. So that kind of roughly translates into $10 billion opportunity that's available for all of us to encash. So really excited. Hope it's not the nightmare that my wife and daughter are. It's the 100 billion opportunity that's looking evident.
Thanks, Nikhil. And Rao, what about?
Thanks. Just to build on that, Nikhil, I think if we take a step back, right, when GenAI, ChatGPT came in around 22, I think there was this famous remark by this wise lady which went very viral. Basically, she said, I want AI to do my laundry and dishes, and I want to do my creative writing and art, not the other way around. And that kind of sums up the frustration of asset performance managers with GenAI, because it's not really doing the heavy lifting of back office operations the way it's supposed to be, right? So I think primarily GenAI has been very successful in content generation for sales, marketing, legal, these kind of scenarios. But when it comes to asset performance management, I think that's where the opportunity opens up for Agentic AI, because I think, as Giovanni has very beautifully explained, it integrates with your SCADA, it integrates with your ERP, it integrates with your external applications. So you can build all of that knowledge, workflows, data, everything into one platform, where of course you have this goal-oriented, autonomous, action-oriented kind of an agent in your hand. And I think the possibilities are immense, and sky is the limit. I think we are just trying to scratch the surface as of now. And of course, I think we are going to talk about challenges later in the talk. But I think in terms of opportunities, I think we haven't even scratched the surface.
Okay, so lots of opportunity, lots of space to implement. So what does that look like practically? I'll ask Bjarki as someone that's in the operating space. How does Agentic AI look to reshape your routine processes? And then perhaps you can touch on the challenges as well that you've seen as part of implementation.
Yeah, I can try to do that. So in general, if we look at genetic AI or agentic AI, what we're looking at is we're trying to replicate human interaction with machines. So what we do there is, okay, we want them to do actions that we do, like you were saying earlier. It's okay, it's not enough just to reason. We want them to reason, we want them to decide, and we want them to act. That's really what we want out of this. And what we see when we try to do that, as soon as we come into the act element, we start hitting barriers. And I think those barriers that we're looking at, we have to acknowledge them really early in the process. Because if we don't acknowledge them, we will drive blindly forward. And when I look at those barriers, one of them has come up very often today. That's data. Okay, that's the data element of it. The second one I look at is cultural and behavioral barriers. And the third one, which I think is maybe a little bit underestimated as well, is process constraints. And I'll elaborate on these three, or I don't have to elaborate on the first one because that's been the whole morning, I feel, data. But if we look at the cultural and behavioral part, we're looking at elements that are the following. So if we think about trust in that way, we act on trust as humans. So we act based on our own experiences and our colleagues' experiences. That is a trust. We trust that part. When we look at AI, we're looking at, okay, how can we trust that process? So we have to build trust up in that application, because if we can do everything, we can have the most fantastic technology, most fantastic processes, but if people don't adopt that technology properly and don't trust it, we will not get anywhere. And then when we come to the third one, which is the operational constraints, the process constraints, I'm sorry, dare I say future legacy process constraints, because we are looking at processes today that hopefully will change with genetic AI. And if we try to go forward without acknowledging that those barriers exist, we will only be making the agentic AI, report into that process instead of rethinking that process. That's really what we want to attack. And just to build on that a little bit, I mean, if we go back to the 90s, which was a fantastic era, for those who were, I mean, that was my peak, let's say it that way. So if we look at that, we saw a spike in productivity in the mid-90s, which went up to 3% in the US approximately. And let's say that spike in that productivity was an increase by 200%, which has in the earlier decade was around 1%. You can say, and you can confidently say that that spike was because of the computerization element. That was a 15 to 20-year-old technology at that time. But I think the lack of speed on gaining that productivity is because we couldn't change our processes. We didn't want to change our processes. And I can just give a little example of that before I take away all the time. I worked with an elderly gentleman. We had a computer in the 90s, working on Excel. I was putting in formulas in Excel. He sat on the calculator and then put it into Excel. Simple as that. So that is what I want to put into that, yeah.
Okay, Thanks, Bjarki. 90s, go. Taran, did you want to build on that in terms of the challenges that you've seen with some of your clients?
So I think very, very, very valid point about the challenges. And I would just echo one of the things that you mentioned, right? The trust factor. That's the biggest challenge. And it's a trust on multiple layers. I would say one is the technology side of it, the other is the human side of it. The technology side of it is when we say hallucinations. That still continues to be a problem for successful scaling up of our agents. So that's part A of it. I think part B of it is more understandable because we're talking about humans, human nature. It comes down to basically, why should I trust this? Give me a reason to trust this. And you're already against the clock on it because you're already, talking to people who have this in the back of their head about my job's going to get affected because of this. So that already takes that a step back. So how do you deliver on that? How do you develop on that human trust aspect is give them something to hold on to. Give them the success. Give them the feeling that this is actually helping you out. The perfect thing that I try and share in this circumstances is 1 + 1 is greater than 2 is a good selling exercise. If the person believes that this tool is actually going to help me make my life better, my job better, he or she's going to adapt it very, very quickly. So that's, I think, part B of that challenge. I have a few examples where I can tell you where we've seen this kind of technology scale up. When we talk about agentic AI, the picture that comes to mind is this sort of cool new tech really at the sort of far-reaching edges of whatever we can do. I am of the opposite opinion. I want to bring it down to the most basic level, things that are nuisance to most of our colleagues. Documentation. One of the biggest challenges we saw across our operating base was we've got decades-old documentation hidden away in closets and cabinets and stuff like that. Tons of information. We just want to digitize it. Just digitizing that piece of information has helped us unlock a lot of power. Second example is reports that come in from people who visited customers, so sales reports or service reports or whatever. There's a ton of information in those reports, but nobody has the time and patience to review those reports, read those reports. That's where we're building Agentic AI, to skim through those reports, figure out when the person wrote ABC, did he really mean ABC, or was there another layer to it as well? Could this mean the customer needs a new spare part? Maybe fill up their inventory or something. That's where we're seeing the biggest bang for the buck in terms of success of Agentic AI. So I think what I would just close that question with is don't just look at the higher end of the technology spectrum. It's also the bottom end of your technology spectrum, which is maybe not as sexy, but it does get you bang for your buck and gets you the success that you need to get the human in the loop more on your page.
Thanks, Taran. I think one of the things that we've heard across the conference so far as well is about getting that incremental value and not aiming for the North Star to start with, but starting small. One of the things I want to shift over to is around the intercept between AI and analytics and visualization. And Agentic AI is democratizing access to complex data sets. We're seeing that people no longer need advanced skills in order to make sense of data and build their own reports. So how are you seeing edge analytics powering real-time visualizations and changing day-to-day operation processes? I think I'll send that to Nikhil.
I'll start to answer that question with a set of questions. As we look at the word today, can anybody in the room guess or have the accurate number of what is the current tariff that US puts on Brazil? Or when would India stop buying Russian crude, and what impact would it have on European finished product inventories? Or when would the war that we've been wanting to end? I think the point that I'm driving and why edge analytics or more analytics is important is we are increasingly living in a very uncertain world. The macro environment around energy with geopolitics, with the demand to provide secure, reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy poses a lot of pressure on our assets, on our energy assets. And those energy assets, to optimize all of them, we've tried to run them with capturing data for the last few years and then trying to build models on that, trying to run analytics at the L3 level or L4 level, or at the last moving to cloud. But what this ever-evolving energy landscape demands is how agile our operations are today. And that agility really needs edge analytics and that power to decide quickly. There's a window of opportunity for an LNG plant to say, hey, I could stretch my machine and take the opportunity of a spot cargo tomorrow. There's a window of opportunity for a refining asset to say, hey, can I quickly switch from a C4 to a C6 product? Or in the petchem space, hey, there's a lot of inventory, there's a turnaround that I need to do at the end of the year, but it's cheaper to actually do it now because the labor is available. Should I do it now? Those decisions in the past were made over months, over weeks. But today with edge analytics, you could decide on those quicker. You could decide on those faster. And the technologies are available today, like the condition monitoring sensing racks that we put by the name Orbit 60. They are as powerful as or as close to any NVIDIA GPU that you could get. So the amount of compute, the amount of analytics you could run at the edge is huge. But again, I go back to what Pujarki said. The challenge with analytics, edge analytics, is data, process, and trust. You could do analytics, you could do edge analytics, which is the need of the hour. The industry would come around to that, but these fundamental challenges would need some work, and as we solve them, there's tremendous opportunity with what technology has to offer.
Can I add something to this, please? I think wonderful perspective there. I would maybe go back a couple of steps and lead with what you had said earlier, which is APM is not new. I still remember those days when going out to the field and connecting the assets itself was exciting. Oh, we have data. I mean, that, so not the 90s, but still, that was exciting in itself. But we've come a long way. We've certainly come a long way where just connecting assets, just being able to get data, just being able to see those squiggly lines on a screen, that's nothing. I mean, that's not the value people are looking for. What edge analytics has given us is that high compute power that you're talking about. And with the high compute power, we're able to go into areas that we had never thought possible before. Fast decision making, like you just said. I would say maybe perspectives, insights into data that we had not thought about before. So as an example, remaining useful life has become a big topic in predictive analytics, which you did not maybe think about previously because we never had that much compute power, which we did not have that much data available. So what does remaining useful life topic mean is my predictive analytics system tells you this filter is about to fail. You as an operator need to know how long do I have. I'm able to do that calculation live at the site with the data that's available without having to send it to an expert offsite, with that expert taking days and weeks and whatnot to figure it out. That's the power of agentic AI, or if you even want to go into high compute. But it's opening up new perspectives for us, which help us with that decision making, quick decision making, but more insightful decision making.
Very good point, sir. Yeah.
Thanks, both. Definitely that perspective and opportunity is a key thing. And I guess without paraphrasing a famous Spider-Man quote, with increased accessibility comes increased responsibility. And we've touched on it a lot throughout the conference. So, Jackie, I know we've spoken about ethics. What are your views on how organizations can balance the ethical considerations whilst trying to implement?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think oftentimes we overcomplicate things when we speak about these things. So if we look at agentic AI, and what we're trying to do is replicate human interactions and human behavior in some ways, is there any doubt that we need ethics developed at the same time? I mean, we've spoken a lot about data. Data is so important for agentic AI. If I think of data and information and things like that, in human interaction, if I speak to a person that has all the data, all the information, but he's unethical, I don't trust him and I don't want to work with him. So I think on that point, we have to look at agentic AI in the same way. So we have to, before we start looking at, okay, what's the data, that's important, we have to say, yeah, well, ethics is equally as important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's, so simply from my point of view, it goes hand in hand. If we really go back and simplify it, as we were saying, we're trying to simulate human interactions, then we need ethics.
I just want to add there.
Yeah.
I think end of the day, we need to also remember AI end of the day is just a technology tool, right? By calling it ethical AI, we are kind of trying to humanize it. It's not a human to kind of say. So I think we talk about a lot of guardrails for AI later on. I think that's where probably some of these ethical AI elements come into the picture, where suppose you optimize for a production, but whether you are actually looking for an emissions counter effect, sort of an ethical way, or if it's breaking any law or whatever standards or whatever, right? So that's what I think. But I think we all need to remember, end of the day, it's a technology tool, and there's, yeah, we can't really give these labels of ethical AI because it doesn't have a mind of its own, at least theoretically.
At least until now.
Yeah.
But, and I just want to build a little bit on that, what you're saying. It's because if we split up in two elements, we have the business ethics and then we have the societal ethics. We have to be able to reach both, because we can go in an ethical way, doing it in a business way, but it might not be societally ethical. So we have to keep that in mind at the same time. So, yeah.
I would just add one comment to what you said about the societal side of it, right? We were having this conversation over dinner yesterday with some of the colleagues, and I learned a topic which I had never thought about before from a societal ethics point of view for AI is there is a possibility, a real possibility of creating a gap in the society, which is the haves and the have-nots.
Have yachts and not yachts.
Exactly, you know? So the power of AI needs to be universal, spread out. So that's another ethics part to it is it should not be used to create silos, because we know what ends up happening with that.
Very good point. Yeah.
Like one of the examples that I would throw into that entire ethics debate is we talk about societal ethics, we talk about a lot of other aspects of ethics, but end of the day, it's all about data and how human our data is. Like one of the projects that we were working on, one of the operators were trying to train the data on what is the emission a particular asset was causing. And the way we were going back, looking at the data of emission going back into decades, and just because the technology or the data quality was not very high in the previous times, certain emission, which was very high, was ranked as a low emission event in the data. And just because the model was trained on that data, which was in that context right, but in the new context not right, the model was doing the same thing. It was flagging events which were high emission as a reasonably acceptable emission events. Now, would you call that an ethical violation on the part of that operator? Maybe no, because the data, they were trying to do the right thing, and the way human was making the error in the past, in the same way as Rao said, the technology of today is making the error. So in my view, I think we would evolve with this, and we sometimes get too scared by the ethical aspect, and hey, we want everything to be whiter than white. It'll work with it as long as people have the right intent. Technology would evolve, and And as an industry, we've always made right decisions and will make the right decisions.
Thanks. When it starts to touch on partnerships, which we'll get to in a moment, but building on ethical considerations, new technology introduces new risks. If you think about bad actors and prompt injections, what are some of the risks and concerns that you see in terms of deploying agentic AI into production for asset performance management?
Thanks.
Wow.
So I think I want to frame it a bit different. When you talk about risks, I want to frame it as the considerations we need to keep in mind while talking about risks. And one of the primary element while you're designing an agentic AI system is, of course, your integration into your enterprise workflows. I think it is the single most important component which you need to get it right. Otherwise, it's not going to work, because building an agent is actually not that difficult, right? And those of you who have vibe coded with Replit or GitHub kind of tools, you can practically build an agent within a day or hours, right? If you give the right algorithm and right kind of logic, building an agent is not the difficult part. You can very easily build an agent, multiple agents, right? And you can deploy them. But where it gets trickier is and why agentic AI is still in its evolution is everyone is looking how it's actually going to plug into your enterprise workflows. Because if your enterprise workflows themselves are broken, I think we have a problem of deploying an agent over a crappy workflow is not going to give you the benefits, right? And picking up on Bjarki's brought up 90s, those of you around 90s, when ERP came through, right, we all spoke about how we need to do business process reengineering of your business processes, right? ERP provided an excellent opportunity to have a relook at your financial, materials, manufacturing, everything, all your enterprise workflows, and actually map your ERP and implement. I think right now we are at a cusp of that opportunity evolution where agentic AI, if you are to look about implementing it, you need to look at your workflows, map your processes, look at your industrial data lake. Shubham spoke about it earlier, the importance of data lakes. You need to plug all of this. You need to get your process workflows right. You need to get your data right. I think we have spoken enough about the data all day today. I'll not expand on that much. But fixing the enterprise workflows, plugging the right data, and giving it the contextual learning, right? Because agentic AI could pull up some of the LLM's knowledge and some of the external systems, but still each organization is unique. Bjarki, I think you would agree. You would have your own internal knowledge built up for your particular asset or a particular kind of an affiliates. So you need to build and bring all those contextual learning also into your LLM models. And now there is also talk of LLMs being evolved into large action models, which would actually help take it to the next stage of evolution. So that's definitely number one consideration or a risk. If you don't get your workflows right, it's not going to succeed. The second I would say is all your guardrails, what I spoke about. You need to you can't just deploy agent run amok among your processes, right? You need to have some guardrails to control it. Suppose if you set a reservoir agent, it cannot keep on increasing the pressure or adjusting a wall where it goes out of control, or a refinery management system. So you need to have some guardrails. You need to define when the human oversight would kick in, and some of those ethical AI aspects probably would kick in there as well. So human oversight is important, and of course cybersecurity is given. If you allow someone to take control of your agents, you are potentially looking at a Terminator kind of a situation, right? Running your entire plant to take over the agents. So I think the second important risk and consideration is your guardrails, what you institute, and how you actually inbuilt the human loop in terms of the human oversight over it, and then the cybersecurity. And the third one I would say, and I think a lot of people morning spoke about this MIT report, and that kind of alluded to this. A lot of AI initiatives are failing because a lot of enterprises are going for very broad ambition-based AI programs. I think there has been enough learnings now that they have more chances of success if you actually identify a specific industry use case rather than having a very broad-based ambitions, right? And the second aspect of that is also, I think we spoke about this earlier, that there is a lot of independent companies and either large enterprises or small startups coming out with specialized agents. I think for organizations, it's far more beneficial to make use of these agents available off the shelf rather than trying to do everything in-house, because the kind of technology advancements, it's very difficult to catch up with oil operators or owner operators who are not in that industry. And you could always have in a particular workflow process, if there are multiple agents, if there is any parallel system to your work process, you can always deploy multiple agents in parallel and have your overall coordinating agent at the top. That could be your specific organization agent, but definitely you should leverage a lot of market available agents. I think these are the main three considerations I would say. Thanks.
Can I add something real quick to that? I think one more risk I see, I agree with all the risks that you mentioned. I think one more thing I see is the risk of not doing enough or not doing enough fast enough. And I think a lot of the people here have talked about it in the past as well. There is a huge opportunity in front of us, but we cannot wait for that perfect set of data, for the perfect conditions to line up. Just find that one use case, just go after that. Don't wait for that, everything to line up, all the stars to line up. Just get whatever quality data you have, iterate, get it out, get it done. So that's one of the risks I also see, is not doing enough or fast enough.
I just want to add on what you're saying there. I think there's also a risk of everyone trying to do everything. Sure. And we see that in just the first years, and that people are, okay, we're building our own Copilot, we're building our own things. Instead of looking across the industry, and not just the oil and gas industry or energy industry, but also partners with digital partners and so forth, and how can we work these things together? How can we, and building on your part, how can we get those specified agentic AI agents working on processes with a coordinator on top that goes across multiple vendors based on what the need is in that workflow? And of course, I think it's also the workflow element. We have to look at the workflow element. I think, and I'm convinced of this, if we do not look at our existing workflows and change them according to what the AI goes towards, I think we will be stalling. Because the only thing we'll be doing this, and I had a discussion with one of my colleagues, is saying, all right, today, if we just take like our personal lives, we are somewhere, okay, somewhere in the world. We don't know where we are. We're looking for Italian restaurants. Yes, we get Italian restaurants up on our browser. We click on that, then we go, okay, is there a table available, so forth. If we expect the AI to do those things in a workflow, that's useless. What we want them to do is we want to say, I want to go to an Italian restaurant in the neighborhood. What's the best one? These two. Okay, I want a table for two. Boom, it's ordered. That's the change of the workflow. But if we don't rethink the workflow, we're stalling.
The biggest risk is we not changing.
Yeah.
Us not changing is the biggest risk.
Well, on that note, and as we look to wrap up, I'm curious to know, what's the one thing or change or development that you would each like to see in order to improve how we realize the value that agentic AI can bring?
I think, Pune, the one thing that I'm excited about is the power in this room. And I quantify that with two phrases, which is partnerships and collaboration. As an industry, I've been in this industry now for 2 decades. The piece that I'm most excited about this industry is we've always collaborated and we've always partnered. At least amongst the operators, we haven't looked at each other as competitors, but we've always leaned on each other to learn, to collaborate, to see, hey, how's Shell doing something in Gulf of America? BP would learn from it. Exxon would learn from it. And that culture has transpired into services companies as well. And the upcoming opportunity with AI, Agentic AI, Gen AI, would put that collaboration DNA to test even more. Since morning, we've been talking about ecosystem, open data architecture, standard data architecture. Those things would really happen if we open up how we are doing things. We share what are the best practices. There are things which are IP. There are things which are competitive advantage. We keep to ourselves, but really decoding, as in the morning was said, decoding hardware from software, from data to agents, those all four things are unique, and they would really come together as a power if we partner, collaborate, solve the energy problem. And I talked about some macro problems, but we have the problem of energy security, affordability, and sustainability. That's what we are servicing. And if we partner, collaborate, that's the one thing which I'm really excited about, and truly is the opportunity. The answer is within the room, and I'm very sure we'll make it happen, and Adam will keep us honest on that.
Thanks, Nikhil. So collaboration and partnerships. Taryn, what about you?
I think for me, I would absolutely talk about partnerships and collaboration, but I think I would take that one step further, and I would say it's actually looking back in the past a little bit, the legacy data. I mean, this industry is not a new industry. We've got tons of legacy data, operational data, everything. We've got knowledge in the amount of sheer brain power, not just in this room, but also out in the field with our folks. How do we leverage that? Because those people are not waiting. They're about to either retire in a few years or the next several years. We need to get that legacy built up very, very quickly. We've heard that from all the majors. Michael, you talked about it as well. Just get that data, good, bad, whatever data you have, get that data before it's too late. So for me, that's the thing I would like to leave this room with, is somehow get that data before it's too late.
Thanks, Taryn. Data accessibility. Björn?
Yeah, big question. I mean, I can agree with the gentleman on my right and left side with what they're saying, but what I really want is, can we do this together? That is the thing. Can we open up a little bit more? Can we say that your gain is my gain, and so forward? I think that's really, I don't see a future without us doing that.
Yep.
So that is really what I want to take out of it.
Open collaboration. Thank you. Rao?
Yeah, quickly. I think it's an enormous opportunity for everyone to rebuild the business, right? Agentic AI gives that opportunity to have a relook at your business and actually start from scratch. I think that gives an enormous opportunity to rebuild and refocus how you do things. Thanks.
Blank canvas. Right. Well, thank you very much for your insights and your time. That brings us to the end of our panel discussion. We are around. There's some demos as well in the hall, so please do come and see us if you're interested to follow up afterwards.
Can I just add one thing? I would like to ask that question again and see if robust ethical frameworks would get hired.
That's rigging the system. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.